Start up. Good evening and welcome commissioners, applicants, and interested parties to the April 17th, 2025 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. My name is Valerio Romano. I'm the chair of the commission and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 260 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing wetlands protection, and Chapter 263 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing stormwater management. The Conservation Commission meeting is now in session and is being held on Zoom. If you have any questions for the commission, type them in the Q&A section of the Zoom application. Please include your name and address to be recognized. When called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission is the town's conservation agent, Charlotte Pechtel. And Mindy, I don't know exactly what your title is. I apologize.
I am an administrative assistant.
And can you remind me of your full name? I know I should know. I didn't get it into my script. I apologize.
So Melinda Wall.
Melinda Wall, administrative assistant to the commission. Thanks, Mindy.
No problem.
Happy to have you for your second meeting. Sorry about that. I'll now take a roll call vote of the conservation commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Commissioner Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Commissioner Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
Commissioner Magnell.
Steve Magnell, present.
And Valerio Romano, present. That, excuse me, we have a quorum of 5 commissioners. Tom, Kathy, Chris, Steve, Valerio. Yep. Sorry about that. So first, we have some minutes to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for February 6, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think a voice vote will be sufficient. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? So that passes unanimously. The minutes for February 6, 2025 are approved. Now we're on to our first public hearing. It's continued from March 6, 2025 for NOI 2504 and Stormwater Permit 2502 for a 40,500 square foot commercial building at 165 Chief Justice Cushing Highway for applicant McNulty. I believe we had a peer review back from Weston and Sampson that was requested by the planning board. Charlotte, would you or anyone from the applicant team like to summarize?
Sure. And we do have Tom McNulty from Hingham Lumber applicant. And Cam and Jeff, would you mind introducing yourselves for the record?
Sure, I'll go first. Attorney Jeff DeLisi, Orenberger, DeLisi, and Harris on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cameron Gray, and I'm with Bay Colony Group.
All right. So I guess Jeff or Cam.
Tom is there. I see him on the bottom of my screen, and I'll be happy to introduce Tom McNulty, who's the owner. Okay, so since the last meeting, I think at the last meeting we were probably at a point where the commission might have voted to close and approve the meeting. There was a question about on-site assessment, which is something that is almost always done in connection with commercial purposes to make sure that there's no contaminants on the property. We did have that report, and at the last meeting I was a little reluctant to share it for various reasons having to do with the purchase and sale agreement. I've since obtained the authorization to share it, and I've sent it over to Charlotte, at least the executive summary of that report. I believe Commissioner Bell has seen it. Essentially, no metals or contaminants were found on the property. There were 12 monitoring sites, or 12 monitoring pits that were excavated in the area where that clearing was located. Most of the commissioners, I think, saw it at the site assessment, and the reason why that area was chosen is because there were some activities out there by somebody prior, some work out there, and they just wanted to make certain that the soils and nothing had infiltrated into the ground. So in addition to there were I think 2-inch diameter, I think 3 monitoring wells that were installed, and those were the PVC pipes that were observable at the on-site meeting. And I didn't have a sufficient answer for the commission at the time, but now I do. The executive summary report, while it did not find any contaminants or metals, did observe the presence of minute levels of lead on the surface. Typically, what I got the LSP on the phone. Typically, the level of lead that was observed would not be a reportable event. It's common in soils in that concentration, except that the reason we're required to report it within 120 days of the sale, which will happen at the end of this month. And the commission will receive notice of that. And I'm being told by the LSP that there would be no need, there's no requirement for any remediation. It's simply a reporting issue. The reason why it would be reportable is because of its proximity to the public walkway on the path there that goes from Route 3A out in towards the state park. So I think that we're happy to report that really it's a non-issue. We've disclosed it. Commissioner Bell's seen it. That's really the only substantive update from my standpoint, except for the fact that last night we received our approval from the planning board on the site plan. And in connection with that meeting, this commission was provided with a copy of a peer review report that was done in connection with that meeting. The planning board in that case is the Stormwater Permit Granting Authority. And so there was an analysis of the stormwater criteria by Weston and Sampson, who's the town's peer review engineer. And the report essentially resulted in satisfaction with all of the requirements. And the planning board acknowledged that last night, and the peer review engineer was on the call. So that's pretty much it, and I think that this is ripe. We're very excited to close this meeting and get on with the process, hopefully, of getting on with the activities on the site. That's pretty much it.
Cameron or Tom, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't.
I'm sorry, I meant the applicant, Mr. McNulty. Sorry, Tom. I'm going to run through the commissioners in a sec.
Sure.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I believe Jeff touched base on everything. I also don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Commissioner Bell?
Yeah, I had a chance to read the executive summary and satisfied that it was properly done and that there's not an issue there.
Commissioner Berrigan?
No, I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Magnell? Sorry, Steve, you're muted.
That's always my problem. I read through the entire submission today for the first time since I'm new here. And it looked like it was pretty well done. I had really no questions about it.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Yeah, only question is just whether or not the applicant would be amenable to having a condition that that they at least initiate or have a meeting with Conservation Trust to discuss possible conservation. There was some mention of that, and no obligations obviously to do anything, but it would it would please me if that could be a condition that they at least discuss the possibility with the Conservation Trust or if that's amenable.
Is it the Conservation Trust, Chris, or Open Space Commission, or whatever that is, Charlotte, if you can confirm, and that type of condition is most certainly acceptable to us. Something we had in mind anyway.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
No other questions or comments from me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied with the project as well. And I don't believe there's any variance requests. I know we're working outside the 50, although it's only by a hair. So I hope we can, you know, there might be a relevant condition. And I know my next question is going to be for you, Charlotte, to describe any conditions that we may have that are beyond the standard. And I would hate to see, you know, just as a thought is, you know, I'd hate to see construction guys sort of kicking back the silt sock and the limit of work, you know, and having it encroach on the you know, on the wetlands, you know, so because it's really, we're talking about right on the border. So let's do our best to maintain that separation and keep the limit of work inside. I had thought previously about, you know, maybe eventually I'd like to sort of GPS these limits of work, particularly on sort of these larger jobs, not just a simple residential, but I don't think we're ready to have that here. But let's just make sure we make an effort to be attentive of that. And I'm sure when Charlotte visits the site periodically, as she does, she'll be watching out for that too. Charlotte, did you have any other conditions that we should be discussing?
I do, and based on extremely recent conversations, I'm typing up a few right now. And I can pull
No
them
problem.
up.
I mean, if you want, I could ask one question just while you're typing for a second.
Sure.
I know Commissioner Bell, you were satisfied with the environmental report, and I am too. But one thing I heard from you, Mr. DeLisi, was that you heard that there's no remediation that's going to be required. Is that firm that there's no remediation, or is that just sort of a discussion?
The conversation I had with the LSP, and these words don't escape me, was I am 100% confident that no remediation will be required. I don't usually ever hear 100%. And
No, from nobody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly
I mean,
not from me. I usually don't say that.
lawyers aren't allowed to say we're 100% confident of anything. It's my general practice anyway. Great, thank you. That was sort of my only, the only thing I've been concerned with, and also obviously keeping the limit of work in, as I already mentioned. Charlotte, did that give you enough time? Take your
Yes
time.
and no.
This
Yes
is a
and
short,
no.
this is a short agenda, and we've, I think we're all in fairly good consensus on this. So if we need a couple more minutes, I guess we could, touch on Mr. Commissioner McIntyre's, request. I know how many acres are left on the balance of the property that aren't being included in the development. Does anybody know? And if not, no big deal. Just discussing.
Cameron, it's almost the balance of that one last back lot, right? And there's an A&R plan that I have, and I can.
Yeah,
Mr. McNulty, you're muted if you were talking to us.
It's more than half of the size of the property that we're purchasing, which is 18 acres.
So there's 10 or so plus
Yeah,
acres.
there's 9. I brought this point up when I first talked with Jeff, that certainly we want to have some discussions.
Great.
So that's my intention, and it will remain.
Great. Yeah. And Mr. DeLisi, this was not something that you have to find some detail on. It was just giving Charlotte some time. And also I know that various members of the commission are interested in seeing, if possible, obviously it's not a requirement for whatever happens tonight, but seeing that property preserved to the extent possible. So, so that's nice to hear there's another 9 acres or so.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
And unlike a lot of towns, our practice has been more casual, and we sort of discuss the conditions and take the vote, and then close the public hearing and move on to the next project. So it's a little more casual, and it gives what I believe the applicant in case there's something important that they want to chime in on, we haven't closed the public hearing and not accepted any more information. So with that, Charlotte, do you want to discuss the conditions?
Sure. And I'll just say, I'm sorry, I kind of do have to read them out loud, but the first two are eventually going to go into our template, so I will not have these read every time. And this would be like recently, just so everyone's aware, if there's a dual submission for a notice of intent in a stormwater, we'll just put the same conditions in each permit so it's clear and not split them up so it's confusing. So the order permit shall be contingent upon the applicant obtaining all other required state, local permits from other boards and permitting authorities. No site construction work shall occur until all the applicable permits and approvals have been obtained, such as but not limited to zoning board of appeals, planning board, although I can probably take that language out now, board of health and a building permit, and then all changes to the site plans from any other required state, local board reviews and permitting authorities shall be submitted to the commission in writing as part of an amended or new NOI or stormwater. No revised work or changes are allowed to begin until the conservation reviews the subsequent changes to the plans. And then copies of any required state or federal permits, including copies of the finalized stormwater prevention pollution plan, shall be submitted to the commission. And then prior to any site work under this order permit, the following shall be completed. The project limit of work, including limit of tree clearing, shall be staked and inspected by the agent prior to construction. All trees proposed to be removed within the limit of work shall be marked with green ribbon or similar material and inspected by the agent prior to any tree removal. Any trees proposed to remain within and just outside the approved limit of work shall be evaluated by the agent, contractor, and engineer as appropriate. All necessary tree protection barriers around these trees shall be installed at the direction of the agent. And then this is the condition that I was typing up. Prior to commencement of construction activities, the applicant shall initiate a good faith meeting with the Cohasset Conservation Trust and any interested land conservation stewards or groups to explore potential conservation value and protection of a portion of the recently acquired property not proposed for development. Documentation of the meeting, including attendees, topics discussed, and any outright or any incomes or future plans shall be submitted to the commission within 60 days of the issuance of the order of conditions. And we can definitely, work out the language. I'll just read the rest of this. Prior to any planting work, the agent shall meet on site with the planting or landscaping professional applicant and or professional wetland scientist as appropriate. I'll just put or, because I don't know, Tom, if you plan to work with Brad on the tree plantings, to locate the proposed tree planting locations in the buffer zones. Any modifications to the planting locations from on-site investigation shall be updated on the plans accordingly. And then per the planting schedule in the site plans, any deciduous trees shall be at least 2 inches in caliper. Any coniferous trees shall be at least 6 to 8 feet in height. That's kind of our standard tree planting size limits or size minimum. And then the tree shall not be planted in a row and shall be planted as randomly as possible within the restoration areas in the buffer zones. All planting work within buffer zones shall be done by hand. Natural undyed mulch and loam may be brought in for plantings. I don't know if we need a seed mix, so I'll defer to the commission on that. Same thing with any completion or monitoring reports. I don't know if we really need that here, but I'll defer to the commission. And then the following site inspections, these are pretty standard. Pre-construction site to review erosion control, stake limit of work, equipment storage, et cetera. Pre-stormwater installation inspection, so looking at the location of the catch basins and then the proposed drainage basin in the buffer zone prior to and after excavation. Before all the walls go up in the buffer zones, just want to make sure those are still staked. That might be a good time to re-inspect the limit of work. And then obviously prior to the planting, and then a final inspection, and then any inspections in between as needed.
Great, Charlotte.
I didn't know about these two, and then I guess I can go back up to this one, which may, I don't know if this language is acceptable to everybody.
The only issue that I would have is, making it, I don't know if every interested party or anybody is going to be able to get together within 60 days of tonight,
Yeah.
assuming the order of conditions is issued.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want to just stick with CCT?
yeah, maybe and then the CCT can obviously invite anyone else, but let's
Okay.
not force.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that time, that 60-day thing, it could be a year, it's fine, or something more.
Sorry, what was that, Chris?
I think 60 days may be a little bit aggressive, maybe within some months or something, or a year.
6 months? Okay.
Reasonable if they're okay with it.
Okay.
And then go down to the ones that you were unsure of again. I had a thought there too. I mean, the completion and monitoring reports would go to you initially, Charlotte. So what do you think about them?
I mean, we've put these conditions in when there's like mitigation. So I don't remember if this is considered mitigation. I mean, it's definitely tree replacement, but yeah,
Let's leave it
it's-
in then. And unless,
Okay.
I mean, and then, as far as the seed mix, you could just switch that to may instead of shall, and that now would sort of leave.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Oh, sorry.
May. Oh, yeah.
Finish what you were doing. Yeah.
No, it's okay, May.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to work for me.
Okay.
And
I
then,
don't think the plan specified, but Cam, please correct me if I'm wrong. I just saw the trees listed, so I didn't see anything. That's why it didn't, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't spec any seed mixtures for around the trees. It's just within the basin and on the berms and stuff.
and then anybody from the applicant group have any concerns with these conditions? Or would like any amendments that we should discuss? Mr. DeLisi?
I don't see anything jumping out at me, Cam and Tom. I defer to you. I'm looking at December 15th of that year. I'm not sure what that means.
December 15th is kind of like it's like a standard that I've seen with a lot of mitigation and planting plans. So, I mean,
But
I'm
it-
happy with changing that. It's just, that's kind of what we've done with a lot of like completion reports, because you do the plantings in the spring or the fall, and then you kind of submit the report pretty much by the end of the year, and then you start the monitoring the following year.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with December 15th. But it's December 15th of what year?
Of,
The year in which it's planted or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of the year in which the plantings are completed.
Okay.
Of completion of the initial plantings.
Yeah. And then like usually monitoring reports.
Of the year of completion of, just December
Wait, of
15th.
completion, wait. Of the-
Lario, you're a lawyer, right?
I am.
Mhm.
Not as good as you, though.
Oh, please.
And then monitoring reports, we've done them for pretty much 3 years. We also already have a standard condition that the plantings have to be, they have to survive 3 full growing seasons or be replaced. So the 3 years kind of already sticks in with our current special conditions template. And then, I think the deadline of December 15th, it's just a really good cutoff to just,
Sure.
submit those reports.
So with that, if do any other commissioners have any thoughts about these conditions? Commissioner Bell?
I don't.
Commissioner Berrigan?
Just that I think the monitoring report part should stay in
Okay.
report. Just for, information in our file.
Sure, yeah, I think so
Yeah,
too.
to-
There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot
Nobody's
of.
wondering. It's there, it's, yeah.
Commissioner Magnell?
Okay, nothing to add here.
Commissioner McIntyre, anything else?
Anything else? Thank you.
All right, so we have, and so I know there was, Mr. DeLisi, there was a discussion about planning and the stormwater permit there. But we also have our stormwater permit in front of us, so we have 2 things. We have issuing an order of conditions on the notice of intent and to issue the stormwater permit. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Was I incorrect about that? You're the stormwater permit granting authority, yet it was reviewed in the planning board context because of the fact that they have concurrent jurisdiction over stormwater, right? That's how it
I don't
rolls.
know about concurrent jurisdiction, but
Well, the zoning bylaw talks about stormwater as one of the elements
Oh, okay.
in site plan. It's just that the regulations of the zoning bylaw don't don't have the specificity in the various standards that your regulations have. So now I appreciate your clarifying that for me, Valerio. I'm sorry, I misspoke
Oh, that's all
earlier.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think part of it also, the reason it took an extra hearing is because we were waiting on that peer review for the commission to take a look at also.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll just add that planning board pretty regularly puts in peer reviews for like large home review and commercial projects such as this one. So as part of their peer reviews, they have, you know, either Weston and Sampson or sometimes PGB to do a peer review of the whole project based on, you know, a lot of different parameters, and they include stormwater. So that's why we, at least with these times where we kind of overlap, we don't initiate our own peer review except in certain circumstances for stormwater, because if planning board's already ordered it, then we just wait for their report.
So I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions for NOI 2504 at 165 Chief Justice Cushing Highway with our standard special conditions and the conditions that Ms. Pectel read. Do I have a second?
Tom Bell,
Second.
second.
Let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. So the order of conditions on the NOI 2504 passes unanimously. Now I'll make another motion to issue a stormwater permit for stormwater permit application 2502 with our standard conditions and the conditions that were relevant from the ones that Ms. Pectel read. Do I have a second?
Tom Bell, second.
And let's do another voice vote. Another roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. So stormwater permit 2502 also passes unanimously. And with that, we'll close the public hearing. Thanks a lot for your patience with us. I hope the project goes well.
We are absolutely thrilled. Thank you very much for your hard work on this project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, likewise.
A lot
Have
of
a great
everyone.
night, guys.
Take care.
Okay. Next, we have a continued show cause hearing from March 26, 2025 for unauthorized riverfront alteration at 39 Riverview Drive on behalf of the Campbell Family Revocable Trust. Charlotte, any updates?
So you have Caitlin Campbell, the owner. You guys, some of you obviously met her on our recent site visit, and then Brad Holmes, wetland scientist from ECR LLC.
Hi, Brad. Hi,
Good evening,
Caitlin.
members of the commission.
Hello.
Since our last meeting, we submitted to the commission a revised restoration proposal to address the wetland area. This follows what we discussed on site, which was mainly to convert that lawn area within the BVW delineation where the flags were to aerate it, dethatch it, and seed it so that we can establish it back to bordering vegetative wetland. And then we would put markers along the wetland limit to demarcate the area. We did leave it with the commission that we haven't addressed the buffer zone at this point, but we were following up with what we discussed on site with the wetland. And we're here to discuss that with you and continue on. Since our site meeting on site, Caitlin did get a letter from a neighbor, Josh Roth, that grew up on Riverview Drive. And he had stated in his letter that was submitted to the commission that the area was previous lawn as he remembers as a child growing up in the area. So that's what's new since we've met on site. And with that, I'll bring it back to you.
Thanks, Brad. So I know there was there were a few issues that I think where our goal is to obviously restore the wetlands and or the board, yeah, the BBW, and also to help allow Caitlin to have to enjoy the use of her property with her kids and whatnot. I think there's probably some slightly, difference of opinions as to on the commission. So I think it's going to be valuable to hear everybody's thoughts. And I think there was another sort of issue about the lawn clippings and the fill, which I think we'll probably discuss as well. I think it's probably that's probably a simple fix. But Commissioner Bell, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I took a look at some older imagery on Google Earth. And while it's possible to see a very small patch of lawn in the buffer, most of the buffer is treed, and there was no lawn going all the way back to, I believe, 2004 or so, something like that. So I don't know what the childhood recollection, how accurate that could be, but certainly the photographic evidence shows that there was no lawn back there, or virtually none.
Is that Tom? Did you say you did that? You saw that on your map?
No, I mean, your map
Okay.
doesn't go back nearly so
Yeah.
far enough. You have to look at Google Earth. And
Did you happen to screenshot any of that?
I can, if you allow me to share my screen, I can show you what I can walk you through this.
That would be great. Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Bell.
Charlotte, have I got the screen?
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, great. And here we go. So is that clear to everybody? Is it filling your screen, or you just see a postage stamp thing like I do?
If you could hit the box in the middle of your window, it might expand it a little further
Yeah, let me see what happens here.
at the top right. No, next two more. Yeah, that one.
Did that make any difference?
Teeny bit, maybe.
Give me a description of what you see.
I can see it. It's filling up the majority of my screen for sure,
Okay.
Tom.
All right, good. So this is December of 2001. This is the area we're discussing. This is a little hazy, but you can see that lawn here is pretty clear on other spots. It's possible there's a little bit of lawn right here. So as we move through the ages, 2003, it's a little blurry, can't see much, a lot of trees. And as we get here, this is April of 2005. It appears that this is probably a patch of lawn, not nearly as extensive as exists now. The rest of it is pretty heavily forested. So this is April of 2005. Same time, 2007. You can see there is a clearing in the woods here, but it's relatively small. 2000. Whoop, go back here one more. 2010. Sorry, let me go back here. I had a very clear shot here that I wanted to show.
That's a clear shot.
Yeah, that's a clear shot too. You can see, you've got green lawn here. There is a clearing here. There's a shadow here. So this is where it looked like there was a bit of lawn right here. But you can see pretty clearly that this area here is not green at all. So I would conclude.
Can you go back one image? Whatever back was.
2017.
Maybe one more. I'm sorry. There was one where you could there. What year is that? Oh.
This is 2016. Possibly some lawn here. This is 2015. Looks like a little bit of lawn here. It looks like this area right here immediately there may have been lawn.
And maybe.
But if we step all the way forward to, in fact, closer to today, this is the area we're talking about that may have been lawn. None of this over here. None of this over here. There were trees here.
What year is that right there?
This is 2023, May of 2023, and you can see that this is in preparation to receive turf by the looks of it. This
Go-
is
what was-
April of
what-
24.
What was the image before that May of, what date is the one before the May of, like, yeah, one before that? What's the date on that one? So somewhere between October of 2021 and May
Yeah.
of 2023 is when it happened?
That's right. So I don't see, you know, when we were out there, we had a discussion and the assertion was that the lawn went all the way down to the river. And that's clearly not the case. There's no evidence for lawn extending all the way down to the river. And it looks like most of the buffer was in fact pretty heavily forested as late as October of 2021.
And Caitlin, excuse my apologies for not
These are
having
big,
your hand.
by the way, these are big trees. These are not, this is not
Yeah.
brush. These are good sized trees. This is-
When did you acquire the property? Caitlin?
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
on mute because my children are in full force.
Oh, that's okay. We love you.
End of 2020, and we moved in early 2021.
Okay. Thanks for doing that research, Tom. That, I mean, it definitely changes. Tom, do you have anything else before we just do a quick run through with the various commissioners for
Yeah.
discussion?
No, that's the only thing that I have to say, that that there's no evidence that there was lawn there in the buffer zone, other than a very, very small patch, something that could be circled about, like, can you see my hand there?
It might run further down to the river, but it's still nothing like what the clearing.
Oh,
was.
no, you want to back up a little bit? It did not run down to the river. So
Not all the way, but it looks like it might. Yeah.
not even close. Well, yeah, might have run about this far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. But
Um,
nevertheless, on either side of it, you have.
oh yeah, it's
you have
totally
mature-
different.
you have
Yeah.
mature trees. So there's no lawn under that. Or if it is, it's pretty sparse.
Commissioner Berrigan, do you have thoughts right now?
Just that it's helpful to see these shots on Google Earth. So,
Commissioner Magnell?
It's interesting that, I mean, even the pieces that are on near map from 2022 and before show not much in the way of any kind of open space. I mean, the part that was previously, I think Tom showed a bit of the lawn right behind the house, but there was also a space there which was obviously through much of the early photos was open space as well. So I mean, I certainly think we should take that into consideration as far as trying to restore things to kind of historical.
Steve or Charlotte, I mean, would one of you like to bring up near map and we could peruse through a couple years of that too?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for, I guess, for Brad, if that's okay, because I'm looking at
Yeah, of
Google
course.
too. Sorry, I was looking at it on a different screen. The clearest image of the lawn I can see dates back to at least 2004, 2005. So I don't know if that's something that you had looked at as well before you delineated the site, or I don't know if you had also looked at the imagery and if you had any thoughts on that.
Wait, I'm confused, Charlotte. Tom's showing us images from 2021 where there's no lawn. You're saying near map, you're saying there is lawn in 2004?
Yeah, so in 2004 or 5, there's a good shot of some lawn. I don't know if we already looked at that one,
No, I mean, can you?
but
can
it
you show us-
definitely, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Tom, I'm not sure if you're on. I was on Google Earth.
Oh,
You.
I didn't, you want that back?
No, that's okay. I can. Yeah, I was looking at, like, there was a pinpoint between 2004 and 2005 that I could see a little bit of lawn behind the home.
Yeah, here, it's a little blurry, but it does-
Yeah, like you can, yeah, I think if you go back one, there's a better image. Maybe it's the one before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah,
see a
so-
little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's the earliest that I can see it because any imagery before that is extremely blurry and it's not clear.
Is that right?
Well-
Hang on. Let's see.
Well, even if you go back to 2016, in near map, you can see that same area is pretty open.
Would Charlotte or Steve, would one of you guys like to bring up near map and we could take a look too?
Yeah,
Uh,
or Tom also had it too.
Yeah, let me turn some of this stuff off. Okay, so then we're looking at 2015, 14. Again, you can see that there's quite a well-developed canopy here in 2014 that's no longer there. So these are not small. They don't look like small trees to me. Let's see if we can get some notion of it from when there's no leaves on them.
The one I was looking at was the one in April of 2016 before the leaves came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
It's clear of trees, but notice that, there are.
It's not lawn. Yeah.
There are lawns here and they're green.
Mhm.
This doesn't show any sign.
But I mean, that's it's almost two issues. One is that patch, whether it extends further out, but that's a vast difference from what we're looking at today.
Oh, yes.
And it does seem like if they moved in 2020 and it didn't happen until 2021, there's some sort of discrepancy which is yet to sort of be explained. And
well, I think the issue really is we're talking about how much of the buffer had previously been disturbed.
Yep.
And in my opinion, this is ambiguous, but I don't think the rest of this is ambiguous at all. It's clearly undisturbed on either side of this apparent bald patch.
If I might jump in quickly, the problem that we had going through some of the history is that this property, I think, was built in like the 1980s, around that time. And whatever yard was constructed at that time has basically overgrown. I think that the neighbor, we don't have a delineation of where the yard was, what he's recollecting, but I think when they constructed the house and they did the development, there was a yard. Over time, the yard was not possibly maintained and, trees grew in. It's hard to see, there's obviously trees in the buffer zone. It's hard to know what was maintained underneath, lawn, maybe not lawn, maybe yard-ish, it wasn't maintained, but I wouldn't have thought that when they developed the property in 80, that they had vegetation right up to the back of the house. That our problem is that there isn't an old plan of record, which normally we could go back to. So that that we would have, an old wetland line and a maybe a limit of disturbance. That wasn't, in the plans or that wasn't that much of a concern back then, I guess. But there's certainly, vegetation that may have grown in. I don't know what was there in the 80s and 90s. It's hard to see in the aerial imagery. The near maps, clear, but as you get older, it's hard to see.
yeah.
Well, I guess it's possible that a tree like this is 30 years old.
You,
Yeah, and could there be, you know, yard under the tree or just kind of overgrown yard that wasn't
may
maintained
I
well?
share one more resource?
Yes, please, Commissioner McIntyre.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just mentioning your name.
So this is sorry for the ads and stuff. It's like a paid site, but these are historical. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
This is called historic aerials, and it goes back much further. The quality obviously is not as good. But you can see, you know, what a lawn looks like in this imagery, and this is the house with no clear, you know, there's definitely shadow here, but there's no real, at least not of the size that is currently there. So undeveloped kind of looks, it's actually a better photo, but I mean, to go back so far, I mean, it was probably just cleared at one point, but it's not. This is the first aerial of the property, and there's no real, there's no green square or lawn really evident to me.
When was the house built? 1985?
And this is
I think 83.
83. And so we were just looking at 86. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 3 years after it was built.
There was one file that I wasn't able to pull, but I was able to get the DEP number. There is a 1988 NOI that was submitted to DEP. And it doesn't specifically say 39 Riverview, but it says lot 5 off of Beechwood. So there's a chance that it could be 39 Riverview, because 39 Riverview originally for the development was lot 5 or lot 5A. So I didn't have time to pull that file for tonight, but I did look through the building files from, you know, the late 70s and 80s. And there's no wetland lines on the plans that were in the building file, but you can see a water protection district line, which kind of lines up with the floodplain. I'm happy to show those for reference, but behind the home, it doesn't show anything else, unfortunately, in terms of surveying, but that's what I could find so far. And I was going to try to see if I could pull that file for tonight, but wasn't able to get it in time to see if there's a chance that that was the original order of conditions that may have been submitted for the house. And I don't know if it was after the fact, but the timing sort of correlates.
There's one more image and then I'll stop share, but this is 2001, which if I don't know, 15 years, but it would probably, you know, to have a lawn and then have it turn into what you see here in that span of time is, to me, not probably realistic, but anyways, just to support that kind of notion. But anyways, I would, my personal feeling is that even if it was lawn, which I don't see any real evidence that it was, it's been over 10-20 years returned to its more natural state. So I don't know that there's any grandfathering in of all that allows altering of the resource area and buffer zones. Charlotte or anyone else, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think we need to work a little bit harder on reestablishing the buffer zone.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Gosh, I mean, I sort of have to concur. It's not what unfortunately I didn't get to do the research before leading up to tonight. It's really not what I expected to see when we've basically taken a look at, 30 years of images now at the site, and there's no evidence of the lawn until, unfortunately, after you guys got the house. And so or whether it's lawn or that whole area cut down. Certainly there's some that runs directly behind the house and gets somewhat close to the river, but the wings or whatever, as it approaches to the side, there's just I haven't seen any image of that. And so I don't know if what Charlotte is waiting on getting would significantly alter that. I don't, I'm not trying to create, or we're not trying to create some huge expense here, but we're sort of at it's a tough spot that we're at now. It's definitely not what I expected to see on these images. Charlotte, what do you think? Do you think, maybe getting what you're waiting on and continuing this again for further discussion is worthwhile? I mean,
I think if that's what everybody here would like to see, I mean, as you guys know, the plans from the 80s do not show anywhere near as much detail as the amazing plans we see today, designed by engineers and wetlands professionals. So, I mean, it's a shot in the dark if that is the same order of conditions, and if so, does it have adequate plans that can show any history of original grading of that site? I mean, I can pull up what I found right now. I did send to Caitlin and Brad today. Sorry, it was a little last minute, but I mean, all the plans that I found in the building file, you can definitely see a watershed protection line lining up with the floodplain elevation, and it does seem to kind of match up with the original, the delineation that Brad had recently done on the site, where the wetland line is. So like, this is one of the many plans I found in the file. So this plan is from 1983. So you can see the existing home, which is interesting because I thought based on the imagery, it looked like the home was built in 86, but this is an 83 plan. It says existing home. You can see this watershed protection district line. And a lot of other abutting properties have that same marking with a watershed protection line in the back of those properties that are around this one. But there were no other plans in the building file that showed any wetland lines, so I'm not sure if the plans I'm going to pull potentially for this NOI will be the same exact ones.
I mean, it's a shot in the dark, and I'm not sure, no matter what they show, whether it's going to, protect that lawn as much as, was maybe originally considered. But it seems to me that it might be worth it, at least from the applicant's perspective, to take that shot in the dark and maybe give the applicant a chance to regroup with Brad too, and see what other discussions they might want to have. But that's just sort of my thoughts before deciding tonight. I don't know, Commissioner Bell, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in all fairness, it's worthwhile to see what the town has in its records, and if it turns out that we can clarify this, that would be good. And if we can't find anything, then we're back here talking about the historic imagery that we do have, and we should act appropriately on that.
I had given photos of the grass, like from if you're standing there point of view. I don't have any aerial footage, but I believe we had reviewed that before, prior to us owning it, the grass that was there. And we did extend that portion of it, but to areas that it had been before, because there was a swing set and stuff that we uncovered under the brush. So clearly had been cleared before. But I don't have pictures from aerial of grass, I guess. But I had submitted pictures prior to us owning it of the grass down there.
And our purpose tonight was to kind of follow up on our site meeting and to come forward to the commission with a wetland restoration proposal. As we discussed on site, we hadn't finalized buffer zone areas and needed to do more work, and Charlotte was going to look through the town files and whatnot. So we're not here tonight to, with that plan, beyond the wetland to say, we're all done. As we discussed on site, we were going to look at that and continue that discussion, but the wetland area was, up, following what we discussed. So we can certainly move forward with doing some more research and coming up with a buffer restoration proposal. But I just want to let the commission know we weren't here tonight to say that the wetland is the wetland restoration and everything else remains as is. So I think we discussed that on site.
I appreciate that, Brad. Yeah, it's not like you weren't expecting for a final resolution and have it all be wrapped up and leave the lawn, except for the restoring the wetland. So that's appreciated. Commissioner Berrigan.
I agree with what Tom just said about the process. That it's worth, if the applicants want to take another look and see what it yields.
Commissioner Magnell?
I agree with Kathy. I mean, it's really incomplete so far. Yes, and I think they need to think about it some more. If you're looking at the mapping, if you look at the other properties which run along the river there, you'll see that none of them have any yards that extend into the buffer zone.
Do you have that up right now? Would you mind sharing? If not, we can,
Sure.
Charlotte and Mindy can collect some of the stuff for the next meeting too, but if you had it open.
I have it open, I just don't know how to share it. Hold on just a second, because it's actually in another window in my system here. Let me give that a try. Desktop, is it might be this one. No, that's not it. Unfortunately, I think I'm on a Mac with multiple virtual desktops.
I can show it if you like.
Sure.
Can I share here?
Please do, Tom. Yeah. If you zoom out, you go even to today, the most recent one.
Let's remove some of this, some of the distractions here. It's way too much stuff on this thing. It's way too busy. It's like whack-a-mole here.
If you remove the state wetlands, that'll give a lot of them.
Oh yeah, right. That's better. I'm going to remove these buffers as well. Just leave the tax parcels. I don't know how to get rid of this, but
I think that's rectangle too, Tom, so you can toggle that off as well. Oh, if you go back to the left-hand side, I think there's another I button so you can hide it.
There's also a disturbed altered area that's
oh yeah. I'm not having much luck with that, Charlotte.
That's okay. I think we can see it.
That's okay. That was okay.
So I think, Steve, you're probably talking about, I mean, this property here, clearly they don't have a yard.
Yeah, if you turn the 50-foot buffer back on.
100, where is the 50?
You had
right above 100.
Oh, of course.
Okay. You can see that if along here, this is the property.
Yeah.
Here are all the other properties running along the river, and as you can see that in all of those properties, there's nothing above it. That's all empty land.
Yeah.
That nobody encroaches into the 50-foot buffer, and there are very few places where there's even some encroachment into the 100.
Yeah.
Not till you get down here. With this large property here where there's an encroachment into the 100-foot buffer.
What, this one here, you mean?
The big property further down. That's this right down. Yeah, that one there with the big circular pool and all that.
Yeah, right.
That's the only place you don't get. You get down here before.
But they stop short of the 50.
They stop short of the 50, right? Even down there.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot of lawn building there. Same with up the one that's like 3 lots down, which also has a pool and a lawn in the backyard.
This one here.
That one there, that doesn't encroach either. So basically, I know that the subject property, 34, is the house is the closest to the 50-foot buffer. Most others have at least some. Yeah, most of the houses are outside of the 100, and theirs is not.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point out that none of the other properties encroach on the 50-foot buffer at all.
Thanks, Steve. Commissioner McIntyre, do you have anything else for tonight?
Not really, just that, I mean, we're not looking to completely like have thorns back and whatever. I think it can still be a nice usable yard and serve the ecological function, and I don't think, I just want to clarify that to the not applicant, the
Homeowner.
home, that you know, we're not trying to, we're not trying to punish you, but it was just, we can't set a precedent like this, especially along you know, the river, obviously, for you kind of tagging on to what Commissioner Magnell was alluding to. So that's
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, it's almost like not only, I mean, we've already set a precedent and there's already rules that we're to some extent we just can't, you know. But why don't we do that? Why don't we do what sort of everybody has agreed on? Unless the homeowner or Brad, if you have anything else, but why don't we see, you know, if Charlotte's stabbed in the dark, and maybe you can regroup with the homeowner and let's see, you know, and put this off to a hearing that, you know, everybody agrees on, and you know, and then we can discuss it further.
Just to
Yeah.
interject one more thing. I hear what Brad's saying, that he'd like to get a review of his remediation, and I think that we could certainly do that. Have a look at that tonight, and
Sure.
and so just to try to remove any risk that there's something in that comes back and bites them, and we continue again for another reason. So I think when we were out there, what we saw was helpful for us to understand what Brad's plan is. I think we should continue to discuss that tonight. Not with the objective of approving the entire plan, but certainly if we see any flaws in Brad's plan, he needs to know about it now.
So overall, I mean, and I appreciate that. I mean, the scope of what we're talking about makes it so different, but I guess the issue is, are we good with, if, you know, Brad's plan? I think the difference is, and just Brad, correct me, but, you know, we're talking about spreading seed mix by, you know, one way or another, whether it's, you know, by hand or, you know, a handheld spreader or even a hydro seeder, versus replanting, you know, some trees or more substantial shady, you know, tree type trees. And that, I think that's sort of the difference in the two approaches. Would you agree with that, Brad?
Yes, there's definitely a difference in that approach. What we discussed on site was because the area is stabilized, instead of turfing off and getting machinery in there, would be to get an aerator and a dethatcher and scarcify that area so that we can get the seed to stick to the soil. So we would, you know, revegetate it with a seed mix. So we're not proposing, based on our meeting, we weren't proposing woody plantings in that area. It was to get it revegetated through seed mix.
And Commissioner Bell, I mean, just that part alone, let's put aside the scope issue. Let's say just to answer, you know, help Brad, Commissioner Bell, is that a satisfactory way of at least approaching a portion of it?
Well, I think in the BVW, it's pretty clear that it was pretty heavily forested not so long ago, and so I think that planting shrubs and grasses and wildflowers is good, but I think that there should be trees as well. Should try to reestablish the canopy here in the BVW.
And so at least this is, and in order to get, you know, Brad some resolution, I think in principle there's no objection to that as a methodology of putting down seed mix right next to the, you know, resource. That being said, I think the scope of what we're looking at is what we're going to take a shot in the dark at from Charlotte and what she can uncover, and Brad and the homeowner get back, because
that's the buffer we're talking about. And we've decided we're going to not discuss the buffer until Charlotte's had a chance to do her research. But the BVWs, there's no question about that itself.
Well, isn't that, but that's what Brad proposed, right? Is just
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's proposed to revegetate with forbs and grasses and stuff. And I think that after looking at these quite a few images here, that to my mind, that's not adequate. We've lost canopy here, and I think that we need to try to restore that.
And do you think it makes
So
sense?
while I agree with this methodology for planting, I think it's a really a good one. But it's not, it doesn't go far enough in terms of, it doesn't do anything to restore any of the trees that were in the BVW. Now, we obviously can't expect ashes to be planted there. They're not going to survive. But maybe this calls for a little bit of creativity about what sort of trees could be planted there to restore that canopy.
Yeah, and I think the discussion on site really was it was a good discussion, and it was, in my recollection, it was kind of plugging in rather than removing turf and starting from scratch. And I think that part of it is, I think we are in agreement with that, but I also think that just planting into the grass like that, other grasses, I think you'd be battling, potentially invasive species, and it would be, having some tree cover might fill it in a little bit more and allow for, the natives to potentially do better than if it was just grass. And I agree with Tom as well that woody wetland area should have some additional plantings.
And let me ask, would you guys want to quantify that tonight? Or, or just generally, maybe come up with some sort of consensus that at least.
I think Brad can have give him some creative control, and just, I think he probably understands what we're looking for, just a little bit more than just grasses and some woody shrubs and some trees, and just kind of let him.
Possible to do a tree count from these images, particularly the near map ones. And I would say that should be the basis of the tree count that needs to be put in place. And ordinarily in the resource, we require a 2-for-1 replacement.
In the 50 even, we require 2-for-1.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about the 50 right now. We're
Not
talking
yet. Yeah.
I realize let's deal with the buffer at the next meeting. Let's see if we can just focus on what.
Well, I know, but I mean, do we want to give Brad, like Chris just said, a little bit of creative room to come back to us, in that not just in the
Valeria, I'm just stating what our policy has been. That there is room for some creativity, but there's also some quantification that needs to take place as well. How many trees were there? And that gives us some notion of how many we would require at a minimum.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Tom. I'm just trying to, Commissioner Berrigan, do you have any? So I guess, what are we asking for, Tom, specifically from Brad and the homeowner?
Well, the trees have been cut, so obviously we can't go out there and measure the calipers of the trees that have been removed. But I think that an estimate is possible by looking at some of these high resolution near map images to get some notion of what has been removed, and then multiply it by 2 essentially, and that's what I'd want to see.
So what was
the
removed? It wasn't like a trees, like how I think of trees with like a tall thing that you could like count and quantify. It was like things with lots of sticks and shrubs, like pricker bushes. So I don't know how to estimate that personally.
I can work on that, and we have standards and replacement guidelines. So I hear what the commission's saying, and I can work to come up with some drafts and coordinate with Caitlin on that.
Yeah, ordinarily, Caitlin, what we can do is look at the site when it's bare of leaves, and particularly in these images that have such sharp shadows, we can make a pretty good estimate of how many mature trees there are there. It's not perfect, but it gives us some notion of what was there. It's impossible to do it when there's leaves on the trees. You know, it's very hard to separate the brush from mature trees. But when the leaves are off the trees and you have strong shadows, you can see the trunks. You could probably even estimate how big they were from these images. And so that's what we would ask Brad to do is to do a tree count here based to the best of his ability based on these sharp images. I'd say, you know, April 2016 looks like a real likely candidate to do this. April of 17, not quite so good, but if you look through a near map, if you look through enough of these, you've got again, you've got at least one a year here that you can use as a basis for estimating the number of mature trees that were here.
So it sounds like unless any other commissioners have any other thoughts, I think Brad and Caitlin, you know, sort of particularly with Brad's guidance, has worked with us for long enough now and knows what the town is looking for and probably understands what the conversation is really well here, that maybe just take another stab at it and we'll figure out another hearing to discuss this further. Unless, Tom, you wanted to come up with something more solid for in the BBW.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is just the BVW.
No, I get that, but I mean, we're telling you, and we've come up with a you know, do your best to figure out how many trees were there, and then 2 to 1 would be what we've looked for in the past in the BBW, and then maybe later we'll talk about the setback as well. But just to summarize, but I think is that a good summary?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any other input before we continue this?
When we talk about the wetland extent, what would we use as its border? The submitted wetland survey that was published just recently.
Well, we delineated the limit of the bordering vegetated wetland based on soils, so we GPSed it. So we have that we can overlay on the imagery and come up with estimates.
Okay, that was yeah, because I'd looked at that overlay, which you've overlaid already on the current.
Steve, just for a point of reference, that overlay is something that I constructed based on aerial imagery. So I didn't even recognize a wetland here. So really the definitive basis for the wetland delineation is by a professional wetland scientist. They're looking at the plant community and the types of soils. So Brad's delineation will be the basis for.
That was my question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the most current, you know, whatever Brad did recently, the historical delineation is less relevant, but the current status.
Yeah, so just to be clear, Steve, any of the buffers you see on the maps on near map, those are things that I made, and they are just approximations. It's certainly not.
Well, yeah, because I mean they're slightly different. His delineation obviously is slightly different from the mass mapper state version of.
Yeah, that's even worse. The mass mapper ones, they're really very in some cases imaginative.
I guess for near map, I know Brad, you probably may not have this technology. And if you do, great. But if you don't, you're welcome. You and Caitlin are welcome to come to town hall and I can log in to my account and we can look at it together. I was playing around with the mirror feature. There's an awesome mirror feature where you can put 2 images up of different time points. And I was kind of trying to look at that to see if there's some really good imagery from the past and present that we could use as a reference. We've done it before with other show cause hearings. So, you know, offers there.
Thank you. We we have near map as well.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay,
So,
awesome.
and we overlaid that image on top of near map, but I haven't checked out the mirror feature, so that's good to know.
Yeah, it's in that little 4 arrow toggle. You can pull up 2 images and you can look at 2 different time points side by side, which is really nice.
Okay, thanks.
What's a good date for you guys?
I did put in a request to pull the files. I should be getting those hopefully early next week. We are off on Monday because of holiday, but I can contact Brad and Caitlin as soon as I get them, and I can either scan in the files together with Mindy, or I can, you know, call you guys or email you guys when they're available, and we'll keep them at town hall. So depending on when I can get that, if I can get them next week, Brad, if we're able to look at them next week, is that sufficient time, or do you think you might need a little bit more time?
I could certainly meet and take a look at the files next week. I don't know if we'd have something to get back to the commission.
Do you want to just put it on for the first, and if they
Yeah,
want to take it to the next meeting after that, that would be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Does that work for you guys?
Yes.
That would be May 1st.
That should be fine. I'm very eager to
Okay.
find
Yeah.
a resolution for this. It's taking a huge toll on my mental health. And I just, like, I can't overstate just the financial burden that all of this is when we were like not acting maliciously. And so, yeah, like I'm eager to find a resolution, but we wanted it obviously to be the most cost effective way. I mean, I'm only a nurse. My husband works in facilities like this. I already have to pick up a second job to like deal with this stuff. So, yeah.
So Caitlin, I mean, you know, yeah, maybe talk to Brad and talk to Charlotte a little bit offline and see, you know, I mean, I think Commissioner Bell said it well, right? You know, we figure out where the edge of the resource is. We do our best to count the actual number of trees there. We multiply that number by 2, and then you find places on, you know, that are within the same resource or around there that you can put those many trees back. That would be, well, at least what Commissioner Bell is looking for. I don't think we're speaking for the whole commission, but unfortunately, you know, the images don't lie, you know, and what we're seeing is what we're seeing. And so we got to figure out a solution, because that's really the directive we have under, you know, state law and the regulations for the town. And also, you know, ethically to be consistent with other people that come before us over the years, you know, to act, you know, consistently. So we're just sort of guided by those principles. So, you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, you need to, you know, spend a fortune on engineering to figure that out. It's actually not that, you know, complicated of an analysis. Particularly, you know, Commissioner Bell summed it up pretty well, and I'm just sort of, I think, restating part of what he said. So, you know, to the extent that you can be cost effective, I don't think anybody has a problem with that. There's no demand for thoroughly engineered plans or anything like that. You know, Sharpies and printouts are fine too. But the issue is consistency, state law, and following the bylaws of the town to keep this beautiful place that we live in. So I hope that sums it up well. And we're not trying to tax you financially, but we are under an obligation to sort of follow the rules. I hope that, you know, I hope that eases your concern a little bit. I know it's not a perfect answer from where you're coming from, but yeah. All right. So May 1st, and then Brad and Caitlin, or, you know, whoever, if you guys want more time before then, you know, let us know, and we can continue it to another hearing. And also, you know, feel free to bother Charlotte particularly now that Charlotte has Mindy to work with. She has all the free time in the world, so you could just go hang out at her desk. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Happy
guys.
Easter, happy
Okay.
Passover.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
All right, give me a second here. So there were two enforcement orders, and it's really for the same property, and I'm remiss, but I doubt anybody was waiting for not saying this originally, but the 90 and 100 Whitehead Road matters, enforcement order and the NOI, sorry, are continued until May 1st as well. So if anybody was on, I apologize for not saying that earlier. And that's those hearings. Next, we're on to certificates of compliance. And the first one we have is for stormwater permit 19-25 for 4 Windy Hill Road, Eames Capital Partners, LLC. Charlotte?
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the approved plan, and just to refresh the commission's memory, this is a stormwater permit from 2019. So I think that predates most of us, maybe except for Kathy and maybe Tom. And it also had in 2019, there was an RDA that was filed for the work in the 100-foot buffer because this was new development of a single family home. The RDA had expired. And so the applicant came back to us in 2023 for a new RDA to refresh being able to work in the 100. At that time, it was discovered that there was a second retaining wall, as you can see in the front of the property here, that was built to stabilize the grading and some existing stairs. So if this jogs your memory, that's why, you know, those are now on the updated plan that was resubmitted as part of a show cause and a renewal of the 2023 RDA. So having said that, when I was looking at the as-built for this project, I was looking at this plan from October 13th, 2023, which is the plan that the commission last saw. I will be working with the, in terms of pending items, I'll be working with the applicant to record the long-term operation and maintenance plan. It might need to get updated a little bit because it was from the original 2020 submission. And there were obviously a lot of changes between 2019, I'm sorry, and present. So I will work with the applicant if you guys are okay with it. If you choose to issue a COC tonight, I'll work with the applicant to get that recorded before a COC is officially issued. So in terms of the site, if you guys drive by it or if you've seen it, everything is built. The drainage systems are all installed now. The site is fully stabilized. Having said that, there were just some changes that I had noted between the as-built and this approved plan that you're looking at. So I can switch to the as-built. Just let me know if you guys want to switch views. The driveway is wider than this approved design. It's about 8 feet wider. It was increased, but the engineer does not believe that it will have an adverse impact on stormwater runoff. You guys can see there was an ACO power drain and a trench ACO power train that was installed in the driveway. And I'll go over that in a little bit, but he doesn't believe that, the engineer doesn't believe it will cause an adverse impact to runoff because the entire driveway is captured by the ACO drain, and it is directed to an infiltration trench, followed by an existing catch basin right down here. So that was one of the last minute changes that while the as-built was being formulated, they had realized that the original plan was to connect the ACO, drain to this infiltration system. But given the difference in the grading from the approved plan, the driveway would have needed to be raised to be at the proper elevation for this design to work. So since the driveway was already built at a slightly lower elevation, even though it was wider, what they did was they worked with the building inspector, myself, and the director of DPW to come up with an alternative. So instead of connecting it to the infiltration system in the front yard here, which collects all of the roof runoff from the home, the ACO drain trench is now installed with an infiltration gravel trench to the catch basin. So it's capturing all of the runoff, it's allowing more infiltration, and it is, instead of raising, obviously, the driveway several feet, this is a photo so you guys can see it. So now this is all going through a gravel infiltration trench, which goes slightly diagonal under the yard and to the catch basin. So it is providing that additional infiltration, and I can pull up the as-built so you guys can see that. So yeah, that was something that was discovered kind of last minute here. So that's kind of the change in terms of drainage. But other than that, most of the other changes up here kind of, straightforward. The pea stone gravel area, there's an area right here that you see on the as-built that was installed based on the plans, which didn't really specify. It's probably assumed that was going to be lawn. So this is, pea stone instead. The retaining wall that was on the original plan is just been extended a little bit here on the northwestern side here, and then a little bit here further down the driveway. So there is an increase in impervious there, but you can see the higher elevation on the abutting property. And then there was also a minor change request back in the fall of 2024 to put in a privacy.
Hey, Charlotte, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
How much was the increase in impervious?
I don't have an exact number, but I can show you from the approved plan. It was definitely extended a little bit here and then a little bit down here along the driveway.
But like 10 feet or like 50 feet?
A little hard to say. Hold on, let me pull up the approved plan. This is the approved retaining wall, so I would say, yeah, like, here, goes all the way down here. And then this wall kind of loops around like this. So I would say here, not that much, but this area probably is longer. Using the scale, let's see, 1 inch, 20 feet. Yeah, maybe almost about 15, 20 feet here.
And was this also something that was discussed with you and the building inspector and whatnot when the changes were made? No.
Not the retaining walls, just the installation of
just
the
infiltration.
with the infiltration trench here to connect to the catch basin.
Okay, sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. And then just to note, there was a minor change in 2024 to put in some privacy fencing, but the applicant ended up not doing that in the 100-foot buffer. And then there was a separate landscaping plan. So I can pull that up as well. So I'm kind of, mostly looking at the changes in the 100-foot buffer just because this is mostly a stormwater permit, but there are 3 red maples here on site. There's rows of Comptonian Virginia rose here. There may be a few hydrangeas thrown in here. It's hard to tell with, things mostly dormant, but there are definitely shrubs planted along both of these retaining walls per the updated and approved landscaping plan. There's 2 American hollies here, a bunch of flowers and shrubs here. And then in terms of trees, I do see the white pines. I do see the red maples behind the home, up top the retaining wall. I do see the viburnums. I didn't count all the arborvitae, but this was a row in the back here. It was a row of mixed evergreen TBD. So they're all arborvitae. I didn't count them all, but it does look like it's following the approved planting plan. So yeah, in terms of landscaping, really only this portion on the retaining walls and the 3 red maples were in the 100, and those appear to all be planted. So yeah, I'll turn it over to the commission with questions and let me know.
Do you think is there any idea whether the increase in impervious increases, a stormwater runoff to the extent where this would be, it created a problem that would violate the bylaw?
Can't answer that officially, but I did ask Jeff to call in case the commission had questions. Do you guys want me to direct that question to him?
I mean, yeah, I think so. As long as I'm not the only one.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
This is Jeff Bassett from Morse Engineering. Sorry.
So yeah, on the left side of the property, there's there's a wall around the rear and the left side. And on the left side, we had it going a little bit beyond the garage, going in the direction of the Windy Hill. They extended that maybe 20 feet, I would estimate. And then over on the other side, it wraps around the house a little bit further too, by maybe 20 feet. So you're talking 35 feet by the width of the wall that maybe it's, 1.3 feet wide. We're talking 45 square feet. Ultimately, what that wall does is make a flat surface so that the water, it lands in the pea stone or lands in the lawn, and you get more infiltration instead of it going right off a hill. So it's creating more flat areas that are absorbing the water. I think it's a pretty negligible increase in impervious, and you have that also the benefit of it making it flat. So I don't see it having any adverse impact on the calculations. This site has an enormous infiltration system in the front yard, in a stone trench, and then also anything that does run off, there's catch basins in Windy Hill on that side of the road that it, the runoff goes into. So this site has been stabilized for a while now, and I'm not aware of any issues.
Thank you, Jeff. Commissioner Bell,
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Berrigan,
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Magnell,
I'm good at questions.
Commissioner McIntyre.
I'm good, thank you.
So with that, Charlotte, is there anything else that we should be considering?
No, I'm slowly going through the photos so you guys can see it, but I'm not sure if you guys were looking at I was definitely counting the tree specimens in the 100, and those are correct. I did not, I apologize, count all the arborvitae outside the 100-foot buffer, but at least looking at the 2023 plan, you can see that, they planted the red maples. I did see the viburnum. I did see the row of arborvitae, obviously all up here. Some of them do look like they're not doing so hot. So I did talk to Sean to get the landscapers to expose some of those tree root flares, because you can see a little bit of the mulch muffin, there. So some of these guys might be struggling a bit. And these are all outside the 100-foot buffer, but the red maples specifically in the 100-foot buffer, those are mostly my concern. So I did talk to the owner. He said he was going to get his landscaper to take a look and uncover some of those root flares so that the trees aren't.
Just looks over mulched.
What's up?
Just looks over mulched.
Probably. Yeah. I definitely would want to see these root flares exposed so that they're not suffocating.
So, I mean, unless there's any other thoughts, I would, make a motion to issue a certificate of completion for stormwater permit 19-25 at 4 Windy Hill Road, with the ongoing conditions that were originally issued from the permit.
And is that okay to make it contingent upon getting the O&M plan recorded?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll add that to the motion. Is there a second?
Tom Bell seconds.
Roll call vote, Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve McNeil, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valeria Romano, aye. So the certificate of completion is approved unanimously. And so that, and Charlotte, you'll just follow up.
Yeah. I'll definitely check about the trees in the 100 for sure, because there's no closure process for an RDA. But I'll just note it as completed in the RDA with the copy of the as-built, and then I'll work with the applicant to get that O&M plan recorded.
And so the ongoing condition would be that the O&M plan will be perpetually followed.
Perpetual, yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So let's see what's on next here. Next
Thank you,
is
Jeff.
oh yeah, I'm
Thanks,
sorry.
Charlotte. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Next, we have a certificate of compliance for NOI 2405 and 2406. I guess we'll do them separately for 74 Black Horse Lane.
Hi, Will.
Charlotte, how's it going? Will Eads from DTM Law here for the applicant, Jack LLC and Steve Callahan. Basically, these two orders of conditions both affect property that's now known as 74 Black Horse Lane, and the plans that were submitted with these orders both show that area. What we're looking for is partial certificates of compliance, because the orders were, the land had not been formally divided yet when these orders were issued. And, or it had by A&R, but there are no separate deeds and no separate assessors parcels yet, or weren't. And so we are now selling what's now identified as 70 Black Horse Lane, and the lender's looking for partial certificates confirming that no work is, required on that lot. And yeah.
So is that 2405 or 2406?
It's both orders describe work that's taking place entirely on 74 Black Horse Lane, what is shown on that plan as lot A4.
And
That's-
to refresh the
sorry.
commission's memory, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh.
One was to convert this existing barn into a single-family home, and then the other permit was to modify this existing dock. So there were two separate notices of intent. All the work, except for obviously some, temporary construction disturbance with using the driveway, all of the work is occurring, around this existing barn. There's going to be mitigation plantings. They're going to be eventually working on this dock here. So they're not working on this home, this existing home, which is now 70 Black Horse Lane. And that's what they're asking a partial COC for this specific lot, because, obviously the orders really only apply to this lot, but it was before it was officially split.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. So,
No, yeah, it's confusing.
It is a little.
so the two orders, that the lot was all one lot then. Now it's been divided and the work is now complete on what is now 70 or 74.
No work was ever contemplated on 70.
Okay.
It was all and to give the exact chronology, 74 was divided off in, I believe I have the date here, 2023 by an A&R.
Okay.
These orders were entered in 2024, but the assessor, I believe, has just this year actually given a separate parcel ID to what's now 74 Black Horse Lane. So when these orders were recorded, they were recorded with the parcel ID and the deed reference for the full lot. The 70 as it existed before it was divided into A4 and A3 as shown on the plan you're looking at right now. So basically the only issue at hand is because 70 is being sold, the buyers thereof and their lender specifically wants some recorded instrument indicating that the work that's required by the orders is only on 74, so they want the partial release for 70.
Okay. And is this the appropriate vehicle to issue the certificates of compliance to do that?
I think in this case it is, because no work was ever approved or performed on 70 Black Horse Lane, other than I'm sure that, there's temporary disturbance going up this driveway and there's vehicles parking probably on both sides of this line here that I'm kind of indicating with my mouse. But yeah, no work was ever approved. Yeah.
I mean, with that, I mean, do any other commissioners have any further questions on this one? I would make a motion then to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2405. It doesn't even sound like,
I
I mean, do
don't,
we?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, it would be a partial COC
Yeah, partial COC, yeah.
for 70.
For NOI 2405 for what is now 70 Black Horse Lane. Do I have a second?
Tom Bell second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
and Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. So that passes unanimously. And then I'll make another motion to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2406 for what is now 70 Black Horse Lane. Any second?
Tom Bell second.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. So let me ask this: do we need? And maybe this is a question for Mr. Eads. Do we need to go back and amend any of the paperwork that's in town to update 74 to 70 here, or is that just sort of happened, as a domino effect of the A&R and all that?
So the order is the order as recorded refers to 74. It just didn't have a parcel ID at that time. So
Okay.
I don't, then the assessors are actively in the process of straightening out all these, as I say, I believe the parcel ID either has or is about to be given for 74. I'm not sure where the assessor is with that, but when I spoke with her the other day, she was in the process and also in the process of there's a further division of 70. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't have to belabor it. I'll have faith that it's going to get straightened out.
For the purposes of the partial COCs, I will send along the sale for 70s going through probably tomorrow. So I'll send along the deed references and such to Charlotte so that the partial COCs can refer to the proper property.
And let's make sure I did say partial COC for 2406 as well. If I didn't, let's just retroactively pretend like I no. I meant a partial COC for both 2405 and 2406.
Yes.
I've got one trick question. On the orders of conditions that were prepared, are the partial IDs the parcel that is now 74?
That's a good question.
I will find out. No,
Because those-
the parcel ID on the order is for the full parcel. I
Okay,
believe.
so those will have to be updated.
Yeah, it's F633-052. So if that was the original parcel ID for the entire parcel, it might have two different numbers now. Because I don't think they
Yeah.
reused the same exact parcel and lot number. I think when they split it, they give it two different numbers.
As I say, I'm not 100% certain if the new number is out there yet, so I would have to double check with the assessor, but we can certainly do that in the next few days.
But yeah, well, I'm happy to work with you if we do have to amend the orders of condition. Yeah.
If it's necessary, I'll
Yeah.
defer to you on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into it. And also I apologize, I'm off tomorrow and we have a holiday on Monday, so I can get you the COCs on Tuesday. Sorry.
Oh, there's no rush on getting the COC. As I say,
Okay.
I want to get you the deed references anyway, so so we can at least have something
Thank
on
you.
there. Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, that matter's finished. Thank you, Mr. Eads, for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
So with that ends the sort of all the public hearings. I know we have some, agent updates, construction and otherwise. Charlotte?
Sorry, I'm just writing a note to figure out if we have to update the orders formally, because like
It sounds like
sometimes,
to me,
yeah,
it sounds like somebody's gonna need to, but
yeah. Well, I'll look into it, and if we have to do that, it should be a pretty easy. I don't know if I can do that administratively. It might have to be an amendment request, but yeah.
I didn't want to hold up the sale by making him come back in a couple of weeks and to straighten it out, but at the same time, it sounds like there's something askew there from the explanation I just heard.
Yeah, from the registry's end, when they eventually file for a future COC for both NOIs, I don't know about the recording. I mean, I feel like they would have a history when the lots were split. You can go back to the original book and page number, so you should be able to still record it smoothly, because the registry has all that information of tracking when the lots are split and what the original references are. But I also can't speak for the registry. If we do have to update and amend the orders of conditions so that they can be properly recorded, I'll work with Will and the applicant to do that.
Great.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys want me to go through updates?
Sure.
Okay. So I apologize. This one will probably be on your agendas for a while since this project is going to be a very long process. As you guys know, the MassDOT sidewalk and 3A reconstruction projects, there were 3 notices of intent. The first one from 70 feet up from Sawyer Street to Pond Street, another one just for the Pond Street intersection, and then a third one from Pond Street all the way to Situate to Henry Turner Bailey Road. Why it wasn't one NOI, no idea. But all 3 of those are now gaining traction. The Situate work, they are gearing up. You may have seen the signs go up on 3A. They're going to start on the southerly side with the biggest order of conditions, which involved almost 5,000 square feet of wetland BVW. These projects were all exempt from our local bylaws, which was super fun. So that one's going to start. They're going to start on the Situate side. They're going to come, obviously north. They may start on the Pond Street intersection earlier. So you may see that work ongoing in the next month plus. And then I don't know when they're going to start work on the Cohasset side from Pond to Sawyer. So I'll just keep you guys updated. There are several dozen inspections for all of those orders. So I'm now keeping just an active checklist for all of them because I was like, oh, this is a lot of work for me. But yeah, if you guys see anything weird, just let me know. I do have all the contact information for all the MassDOT people and who will be overseeing the work. And then 24 Little Harbor Road, this was our coastal bank restoration project, one of the first projects where we allowed the use of applied herbicide treatment for ecological restoration. I've been to the site 4 times in the last couple weeks. They've made significant progress. They have 2 signs posted, by the way, one facing the water, one facing the road, so that everyone's aware that this is under an approved permit. They have since over the last few weeks, right before mid-April, which was a cutoff in the order of conditions to not take down any heavy invasive species because of bird nesting season. So they have up until yesterday, they did remove all of the invasive Norway maples. They did leave the stumps, because there was no heavy excavation. They're doing everything by hand. They were hand pulling all of the honeysuckle, the bittersweet, the garlic mustard. They've they put, specialty straw down on the site for erosion control, and they will continue to monitor it and come back in the fall and administer the second round of herbicide treatment. So they are going by the approved management plan that we had reviewed. I just spoke with the landscape architect today. They're going to start doing their landscaping work outside of the restoration planting. They're going to be starting that very soon. And there are a couple changes which actually will result in some positive native species substitutions. One of them being they're going to put in 3 red maples instead of 3 shadberries, which I know a lot of people go back and forth on whether or not those are trees. So in my opinion, we're getting more shade trees. So that's great. There might be some little modifications on the northerly side to be able to plant the cedars because there's very limited soil. So I'm just going to work with the landscape architect on that. So yeah, this project's really coming along. If you guys are bored or free and you want to drive down and take a look, they welcome commissioners. So just give me a heads up if you're going over there. But yeah, they really want this project to be like a shining example. So with that being said, if you guys are interested, feel free to drive by. 140 Border Street and 95 Atlantic Ave. These are projects that we've recently approved within the last year. 140 Border Street was another dock project. That one is starting very soon. Based on the erosion of the marsh, the last set of pilings, they're probably going to have to be pushed back a little bit so that they're not on the eroding edge, which is fine. It'll still be the same set. And the 95 Atlantic Ave, that was a raise and well, not a raise, but a physical raise to bring the home above the floodplain. That one's going to start very soon in the next few weeks. I just did a pre-construction visit there. So yeah, that's it for construction updates. Does anyone have questions? No? Okay. And then the wetland regs, Steve, thank you again for your edits. I'm sorry I have not looked at them yet. Chris and Tom, I know you guys are looking through those. So yeah, just wanted to kind of touch base. Did any of you guys have any, questions, or do you want to talk to me offline? Has anybody not started them yet? Just trying to get an idea of who's looked at them and who hasn't.
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's okay,
I
Kathy.
still haven't. I've had so much.
Okay.
But
I will.
That's okay. You guys have a lot going on. That's okay. But yeah, just let me know. And then, Chris and Tom, when you guys are done with your reviews, let me know what you think. And then the fee schedule. I was supposed to bring this to you guys earlier, but I just went down a rabbit hole with a lot of the other South Shore agents. Their fee schedules are way more impressive than ours. So I'm still doing a little bit of homework, but I'm hoping to get that to you guys before the end of the fiscal year. So yeah, I've received a lot of really good intel, and I think it would be awesome to incorporate. I just got to talk to John. I'll work with Mindy to finalize that, and you have to advertise it in the newspaper. We do not have to go to town meeting for the fee schedule, and you don't have to do it for the regs, but you do have to do it for the bylaw. I will triple check that, but I have been consistently informed that for updating the fee schedule, it's just a properly advertised notice in the Patriot Ledger and then a public vote during a public meeting.
Can you give us
Great.
some examples of fees that you encountered
Yes.
when you were shopping?
Yes. So one example is Norwell. They have a really good one. They charge for minor changes and major changes. I am hesitant to charge initially for minor changes because it's taking me a very long time to get professionals to even come to me in advance and not just do a ask forgiveness and permission style. So I don't want to discourage that process, but I think for people who are particularly high maintenance, if they're proposing multiple minor changes, I would eventually like to start charging for it to be like, hey, like this is a lot of work on me and, you know, now Mindy, our staff. So that's something I'm looking at. I'm looking at our own regs in the section where our fee schedule is listed. We're supposed to be charging $100 for a variance request, and that has never made it to our fee schedule. So that will be going in there. And then other towns are looking at retaining costs. So our commission, as you guys know, we don't really, we used to bring on consultants for stormwater, and we don't have a retaining fee for peer reviews or anything, but maybe while the regs are being updated, maybe for certain thresholds, like if you have a large commercial project or something, or a really complex subdivision project, maybe we have the applicant reserve a retaining fee, kind of like planning board, like for certain types of reviews. So that's something to consider. A lot of towns do that. And then obviously the applicant is reimbursed if that peer review is never needed or if there's extra money. So a lot of fee schedules will have a retaining fee for notices of intent and stormwater design. So those are some of them.
What sorts of dollars and cents are they asking for things that we would be changing ours to? Where are we at?
Oh, you mean for the retaining fees or just in general?
No, for any fees.
Well, we're actually
example-
kind of expensive, especially for stormwater. So we're probably one of the most expensive stormwater breakdowns that I've seen. But for notices of intent, it varies dramatically. Although I will say, even though our fees may be a little bit higher with initial submission, when it comes to amended submissions, a lot of other towns are charging a lot more than 150. So yeah, but we're definitely one of the highest with stormwater. I've seen stormwater permits, like their fees are not as high, but I think to be fair, like, I don't know. I mean, they might be much bigger towns and they get way more submissions than we do.
Charlotte,
We're
you're dancing around this. How much do we charge for a stormwater permit? I don't know.
Oh, we charge for administrative at $750, and that includes the cost for the COC. And then it's $1,050, $1,250, and $1,500 and $2,500. And some towns definitely, a lot of towns don't charge as much there. However, they do charge a lot more for administrative fees. They charge more for amended permits, minor changes, major changes. They're also charging for inspections. I do not do that. So yeah, like I said, to encourage people calling me and bringing me to the site and discussing changes ahead of time, I don't want to discourage that process. But like I said, for the high maintenance projects, I might incorporate something like that, and it would probably be at my discretion, obviously. So if you guys are open to that, I'll look into it further.
I mean, I think that's really smart forward thinking and not
Like
inspections.
inspections, yeah,
Yeah,
I
not
think they
hitting,
go by
not
like,
hitting them with fees when disincentivize them from involving you.
Yeah.
Where it's already hard enough to get them. So I think that makes a lot of sense. But then again, I can think of one, recent discussion where somebody keeps coming back for changes, and it might be worthwhile to say, look, because I think maybe some people do this intentionally, right? They file their original plan is a lot less than they actually plan on doing at the end of the project, and they know that incrementally they're just going to keep pushing it pushing it out. And so what we can do to discourage that might be useful too. So I like that forward thinking.
Yeah, incremental fees are definitely something that's really interesting. So some towns have, like, for the initial amendment or whatever, they don't charge a lot, but then obviously for subsequent ones, they raise the fees. Same thing with requested inspections that aren't already incorporated into the permits. So they charge like 50 or 100 or something. And then for those subsequent visits, they keep charging. And then some towns go up to a certain limit with minor changes, with site inspections, things like that. So yeah, what I was kind of doing is I was kind of putting together an Excel sheet and kind of trying to compare notes a little bit. So I apologize, I've gone down that rabbit hole. So that's why the fee schedule has not been brought to you guys yet. But while we're updating it, it's worth exploring. Conservation commissions don't historically bring in a lot of money. So yeah.
We need our new boat so we can look at these.
No boat.
Wait, everyone
Yeah,
else
so I
is
can
getting
spy
paid
on
here?
people. No.
Yeah, we need a twin 250 for Tom to drive us around on.
There you go. I have a boating license too. It's just only in
Buffer zone
Florida.
inspection.
Yeah, so I'll bring that to you guys, and yeah, we'll definitely vote on it at a public meeting. I want to try and do it before the end of the fiscal year, but if not, it'll be the first one in July.
Great, thanks, Charlotte. Are there any other updates? Are there 48 hours or anything?
Have
Well, I think
one.
we have. I mean, we've been at it for less than 2 hours. Does anybody else have anything?
I have
Otherwise-
one. It's kind of a question for
Yeah.
Charlotte, not to bog her down with anything.
That's
so
okay.
I tried to look this up myself, but 75 Whitehead. We visited
Mm-hmm.
and there was the area where the kind of sharing my screen here.
Yep.
Where the equipment was stored.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if that appears to be, it does appear to be in the buffer zone. I was wondering if that was ever permitted. I didn't see anything in our,
You mean in terms of the storage of that?
well, like the alteration here, that the
I don't think so.
shed, the removal of vegetation and,
The removal of vegetation, definitely no. I did note it in my original violation notice, that some other work was reported to me in this area, probably to make a clear space for that hopper.
There's also a tractor there.
Yeah.
oh, they did some planting since then, so maybe that's all
I
right.
mean, it's not just the hopper that would be picked up by something else. There's a John Deere, big old tractor there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
yeah, sorry, Chris, to answer your question, no. I do not believe that area was previously permitted because it was within the last few years that the vegetation in that area, I think it was mostly wisteria, was removed.
Mhm. All right, well,
I mean, it sounds, yeah.
I don't know what we can do about it. Is it past the,
I can play with near map. It might be just outside, but I'll take a look.
We don't have to resolve it right now if we want to add if it looks like it's something that we want to, issue an enforcement order on. I mean, I certainly,
yeah, we can sandwich the NOI between two enforcement orders.
yeah, I definitely want to deal with the enforcement order for, we know what we're doing there. Anybody else have anything for us to chat about? All right. Maybe next time we talk, there might be a striper poking its head around. So we might not see Tom for a few months, but I appreciate everybody's time.
Caught my first pickerel today, or my daughter did, so that was fun.
Oh, is that right? That's so fun. That's awesome. Fishing with your kids has got to be the best thing ever. Make a motion to adjourn.
Campbell, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion to adjourn passes unanimously. The hearing for the Conservation Commission on April 17th is now closed. Thank you all very much
Thanks.
for your
Thank
time
you.
tonight.
Thank you,
Good night.
guys. Have a
Yeah.
great night. Have a good weekend.
Take
Holiday
care,
weekend.
everybody.
You guys have it
Charlotte.
off.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.